Hey everybody, welcome to another match in World of Tanks, this time in the Challenger. This is the Tier 7 British turreted TD, leads to the Charioteer and comes off of the Sherman Firefly, or the Achilles, depending which tree you want to go down. Now, when this thing first entered the test server, it was actually weaker than the Firefly a tier before it. However, the Firefly got nerfed, this thing got... I can't remember if it got buffed, but I do know it's now actually a little bit of an improvement on the Firefly as far as its gun goes. As far as the rest of the tank goes, well, you're about to see. It's built on a Cromwell chassis. I think it's a lengthened Cromwell chassis. So it's pretty mobile. It's not as mobile as a Cromwell, obviously, because you've got this stonking great turret with a 17-pounder gun in it, but it's not a slug, so there's that. It does have the 17-pounder gun, which is a pretty good gun even at tier 7, and it fires quite quickly. Now, I'd seen some people describe this thing as a turreted E25. I wouldn't call that accurate. The reason being that the E25A has camo, B has at least some semblance of armor, even if it's not very thick, it's sloped quite well. And also the E25 has very fast effective traverse, because although it doesn't have a turret, it does spin very quickly on its tracks. The E25 is also much faster. What this feels more like is a crippled Cromwell with the turret and gun of the Black Prince, really. Except without the armor. It's difficult to say what it feels like, really, because it feels like the Challenger. There's not much comparable to it in the British tree, or really in any tree. Instead of having a high alpha gun, like many TDs do, it has a high rate of fire, low alpha gun with good pen for its tier. But it has some serious problems, and let's look at one of those problems right now. The Challenger's biggest problem is this turret, because although it has pretty decent gun depression, the turret turns painfully slowly. If anything gets close to you, you will not be able to keep your gun on it. Maybe if you traverse the hull at the same time, you'll be struggling to keep up, but the turret itself is incredibly slow. You have a terrible reaction time because of it. It's also very tall, so you have no camouflage. More importantly, if we look at it from this sort of perspective, where you're going to see it from hull down, if we assume there to be a hill blocking everything below the gun mantlet, you have this giant unarmored vent on the top of the turret that sticks out above whatever you're using as cover. So you can be as hull down as you like, people are just going to aim for that and they're going to pen you every time. Now, if you notice, it has 900 hit points, which is not the worst I've seen for a TD, but it's also not very good. It doesn't take much to kill one of these. In terms of the gun, there's really not much to say about it. It's a rapid-firing 17-pounder. At tier 7, it's really not that bad. You will have trouble handling tier 9s because they just don't really care about getting shot for 130 damage, but against tier 7s and even many tier 8s, this gun is more than adequate. The biggest issue that the Challenger has when it's bottom tiered in a tier 9 match is the fact that it just doesn't have hit points, it doesn't have armor, it doesn't have camo, and it doesn't have the reaction time to defend itself if something runs up to it and starts shooting at the side. Thankfully, this match has worked out pretty much perfectly for me. The enemy have sent too many tanks to Valley, considering we only had 2 people there. We even had a bot, in fact, and it hasn't been too much of an issue for us. Our team rolled the town. I was able to get some shots in from the center, and now it's just cleanup time. This is pretty much the best case scenario for playing this thing, particularly on Lakeville. I decided to get up in the Walkerine's face, and as you can see, the 17-pounder has absolutely no problems at all with the upper front plate of a Panther. Then again, not much does at tier 7. The enemy do finally break through in the valley. One of them continues on towards our cap, the rest turn around to try and defend their own. It's too little too late. We've already got this game well and truly in the bag. This is why you do not go into the valley. I don't know why I need to keep saying this. Of all the positions on all the maps in the game, there are few as useless as the Lakeville Valley. Do take some hits here from the T25-2. It's at the end of the game, I can afford to. I'm not really worried about surviving the game or not, I just want to get more damage in. So I end up with a passable amount. It's decent, I guess, for a tier 7 TD with 900 hit points, but it kind of just doesn't feel that impressive, and this sort of carries on to how I've felt about the challenges since, particularly after some pretty rough games in it. It's just not good. The Archer I liked because it was strange. Strange tanks are fun tanks, and I really, really like the Archer, and the 17-pounder gun is very good at tier 5. The Achilles I haven't played yet. I went through the Firefly to get to this. The Firefly is a fantastic tank. Absolutely fantastic. I would say easily one of the best tier 6 mediums, and tier 6 has a lot of very good mediums in it. This thing though is just not good. It's like a conspiracy of all the worst design features of the British tree in one thing. It has no armor, it has no turret traverse, so the fact that it has a turret doesn't really make up for the slowness of its traverse. You may as well be in one of the turretless tank destroyers in the British tree, which at least has armor. It gets ammo racked very, very easily. Its gun is anemic for its tier. Honestly, the Cromwell is better than this at killing tanks, and the Cromwell is a full tier lower, and is what this is based off of. The Firefly is, again, a full tier lower. The Firefly is better than this. I really don't think that there's a tier 7 TD that performs more, I don't know about badly, but performs less admirably than this thing. Even the SU-100M1 actually does put out damage when you manage to get shots into things. This relies on doing DPM over time. Doing DPM over time means you need oblivious enemies who don't react to the fact they're being shot at. It means you need to consistently pen them, which you may not in a tier 9 game. It means you need to not get shot in return, because you don't have the hit points to survive 2 or 3 shots from a 390 alpha gun, either on an IS-2 or on a tier 9 medium, which you will see. You'll only survive 3, maybe 4 shots in a tier 9 match, whereas it takes you, like 30 seconds or a minute to do any substantial amount of damage to a tier 9 tank, and that is a real problem. Now, the tank that follows on from this, the Charioteer, is absolutely fantastic because it has the L7A1 that the Centurion gets at tier 8. It too is built on I think on a Cromwell chassis or a Comet chassis. It's one of the two, they're very similar. It has a much better profiled turret. The turret's still kind of large, obviously, to fit the big gun in, but it's much lower, and it doesn't have that big stupid vent on the top that eats everything that gets shot at it. It keeps the excellent gun depression, the passable mobility. It also has a slow traversing turret, but because you actually have a substantial gun, it's not as much of a problem. Honestly, I'm very inclined to just skip this thing. If I had the money to do it, I would. The Challenger is just not fun to play at all. It's certainly not a turreted E25. The only similarity is having a high pen, high rate of fire gun. That's where it ends. The E25 is a very, very strong tank destroyer. In fact, it's overpowered, very overpowered, with good camo, good maneuverability, it does actually bounce things sometimes. It's just much more flexible than this thing. This thing feels absolutely disappointing. Maybe if its turret traverse was a little faster, or if it didn't have that stupid vent on top of it, it would be acceptable. But it's just too many things are wrong with this tank for it to be good. One or two things are acceptable, but when you have as much wrong with a vehicle as this has, it's just not really worth it. So my advice going up the British TD line would be to spend as little time as possible in this thing, and to even if you don't skip it, just do your absolute best to get out of it in a hurry and straight into the Charioteer, which is a fantastic tank destroyer. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is pretty much, like I said, the best case scenario for this thing. I will have some more replays in it that are maybe not best case scenarios, and certainly go a bit further into illustrating the many issues I have with the Challenger. As ever, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.